Hey everyone, happy, what's today? Today's Monday. Holy cow, time's flying by. So we had obviously a great day today in Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin obviously going up nicely today. Is this the start of a bull run potentially? So we'll get into that. We'll also take a look at the Bitcoin miners for Q1 based on their financials and operations. And it's based on those metrics there. And we'll see which ones are like the top five for, Q1 basically. Okay, then we'll get into you guys' Q&A side of things. So it should be a pretty easy day today. Let's get into, obviously, we got to do this disclosure. Not financial advice for entertainment only, right? And this is a full disclosure of what I own, almost like being paid by any public Bitcoin miners or anything like that. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously, especially hitting the like button. That definitely helps the YouTube algorithm. If you guys could do that, I would appreciate it greatly. Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin here, and as far as what's going on with it, there was no other news today on the miners or anything like that. So we'll get into, obviously, how Bitcoin has done over the previous cycles in comparison to this cycle. We'll get into this kind of really quick here. We'll take a look at how Bitcoin did today along with the miners. Obviously, the miners had a pretty good day as well. So as you can see here, these lines here, the yellow line is the current halving event that we had just now. The red is the one that we had in 2020. And then the kind of, I guess, orange one would be back in 2016. So we've obviously seen a couple of cycles already, right? And these cycles, I think the 2016 and the 2020 cycles were a little bit similar as far as the starting gate is concerned, right? We had obviously a little bit longer time frame, but it was still going up here, even though it took a while from, this is January 17th. Let's see here. This is from 2016 of June, right? And that was like around $300 at that point. And you can start seeing up here, it's already at like $1,100 in March of 17. So about 9 months out, we've already basically tripled at that point, roughly, right, in price. On Bitcoin here, and then we had that parabolic rise here in 2017 into December, right, where we reached about 19,000 at that point. Then this cycle, this last cycle that we had, obviously in 2020, it took only a little bit less time. I mean, it took much shorter period. So we're looking at May here, and then we started going parabolic here in October. So this was only approximately, what is that, May? So you got May, June, July, August, September, October. So about 5 to 6 months or so before we started going parabolic on it, right? And then we had the double top here, obviously, as well in there. That kind of happened. We had the ban in Bitcoin mining in China, right? That obviously dropped the price down, and we started going back up here. So I think we possibly would have went higher on it if it wasn't for that event there. But we had that, obviously that happened. And then we had obviously a lot of the, we had all of those investment funds and things like that going out of business, going bankrupt because of Terra Luna going down and everything else. So that also contributed to that as well. And then we went to the bear market as well. And then this cycle, before the halving event, we reached a new all-time high, which has never happened before, as you can see here. I mean, maybe got close, maybe halfway from the halving cycle before, but never to the point where we were actually above the previous all-time high before the halving event happened here. So that's different this time around. And then you can see here, as we zoom in onto it, we've only had a couple weeks here, basically about 4 weeks where we're trending downwards. And we had about a 23% correction here or so from the top down to here roughly. And then we've basically started to rally up again, right? We've had, last week was a nice week. We were in the green. This week we're in the green again. And when we do get into these kind of rallies, we do have these for consecutive weeks potentially here. So we'll have to see how this plays out, if this is a fake out or not, or if we're actually going to continue to go up much higher. Obviously, the next resistance line is going to be here right around 73,000, wherever the previous all-time high here was, which was 73,835. If we can get past that, I think we'll do very well going forward. And then the next line was somewhere between basically that and 100,000 is where we might kind of peak before we have another 20% pullback potentially, and then continue going up further maybe, right? We just don't know right now. But like I said, this cycle is completely different from the other cycles that we're seeing, not only because of the new all-time high before the halving event, and then also just the short duration of where we're starting to actually go quite nicely up in value in Bitcoin here, okay? So that's kind of what's leading me to believe that maybe this is the start of a new bull run here after the halving event, right? We do have the spot Bitcoin ETFs attributing to that. We have a lot of countries getting interested with it. Banks are getting interested. Pension funds are getting interested in it. You have all of this other catalyst that's happening there that's driving the price of Bitcoin. Obviously, the halving event also took out a lot of the supply there, half the supply basically. So there's just a lot more demand than there is supply, which obviously is going to result in the Bitcoin price going up possibly faster and higher than we would expect normally. That's kind of what I'm thinking here, but we'll see if it plays out that way. Okay, now if we look at the daily chart here, we can see obviously Bitcoin today had a really good day. It was up approximately, $5,170. It closed at $71,432. It was up 7.8% on the day. Great day, obviously. It continued going up even after the market closed for the miners here. So had it gone up to that point before the market closed, I think Bitcoin miners would have done actually even better at that point. But we're obviously up quite nicely here. We're down a little bit here in the new day, but we did get up to approximately 71,980. So pretty close to 72,000, $20 short of that, which we might obviously come down a little bit here today and then possibly go back up. We'll see how it plays out and what the demand is like tomorrow. Now, the miners here, ANY, for some reason, was up huge today. It was up 48%. Not sure why. I didn't see any news on it. The only thing is this one doesn't have a lot of shares outstanding. It could be manipulated based on that. Right, that was up huge. That was the best gainer here today. If anybody bought that, Argo was only up 3.47%. Bit Digital, right, getting a little love here, 21.66%. It looks like maybe the AI side of things, the revenue they're getting for that is getting a little bit appreciated there as well. And then you got BitDeer only at beyond 5.6, Bitfarms up 4.86, Cypher only 3.64%, Cleanspark up nicely 14.22, CORZ was up 6%, Digihost was up 4.2%, DMG was actually one that was down today for some reason. It was down 2.65%. I didn't see any news on them. Hive was up 7.38%. Hut was up 8.6%. IREN was up 5.6%. Was up much higher before coming back down a little bit. It's obviously had a pretty nice rally here recently. And I think there's just maybe some profit taking. We've seen this also on Friday as well. So we're kind of seeing the same thing here, going up much higher and then coming back down. I'm guessing it's profit taking happening right there. They're still a ways off from obviously their previous high here, which was at approximately $8.69. So we're still way off from that. And then Marathon also had a great day, 14.7% on them. Mawson was up 20% as well. Really no reason there. I think it's just manipulation of the stock a little bit, not a lot of shares with Mawson as well. Riot was only up 8.95%. Stronghold was up 8.8%, and Wolf was up 9.49% as well. So a great day for the miners nonetheless. And I expect this to continue going forward, right, as Bitcoin continues to go up much higher in this run. And especially the miners that are doing really well, growing really well this year, I think are going to do maybe a little bit better than some of the miners that are not. But we'll see. But you can still have like today, right? ANY, for no reason, one of the smallest miners that we track here, and they're up almost 50%, right? With no news, no nothing. It's just it can be manipulated, like I said. I think based on just what I'm seeing here with them. Okay, so that is it for those. Let's take a look at the network hash rate really quick as well. So here's the network hash rate. This is the 7-day average. We can see that the network hash rate is back up to 592 exahash. It keeps bouncing. I think it's kind of bottomed out here at 575 exahash recently on the 7-day, and it's been coming back up here. And with Bitcoin price going up in value, that's only going to represent more miners being plugged in that possibly were not profitable at just a couple of weeks ago or a couple of days ago even. If we look at the 30-day average, we can see that the network hash rate has continued to come down on that. Right, it's kind of averaging out here. So we're down to 600 right now, exahash. Our peak was around right here, which was about 625. So what is that roughly? A couple of percentage points that we were down in general, right? Not that much, not what we were expecting. Obviously, the 15 to 20% decrease in network hash rate. And that is mainly contributable to because the network or Bitcoin prices continue to stay high. And we're also seeing a lot of newer miners getting installed as well, more efficient miners that needed a lot less to grow your exahash that way. Okay, so that's all contributing to the network hash rate staying pretty high. And then we have the Bitcoin transaction fees here per day. This chart's still not working for me, but it's like right around 20 some odd BTC per day on that one. And then we got the hash price here as well. Hash price has come up here to now approximately, what is that right there last day? $55 per petahash per day. So that's obviously a good sign for the miners. They're going to be definitely more profitable going forward. And if Bitcoin continues to go up as well, that will be a good sign for them going forward. Okay, so I think that's basically all of it. Like I said, today was a great day. We need at least 10 to 20 of these days where the miners are up, double digits and things like that. That would definitely be helpful in this bull run, which I think we will get it. But you just got to be patient with it, and it will take some time potentially. Now, like I say, that it might take some time, but it might be also a lot faster of an increase than we've seen before. We'll have to see, right? Nobody knows for sure how that's going to play out. All right, so let's take a look at the miners here as far as their Q1 numbers are concerned. So I pulled in all the numbers for everybody here as far as growth for operations, things, Bitcoin, BTC per exahash efficiencies. And we looked at some metrics as well for financials, their current debt to ratio, other things as well. So just to see how they're doing, sometimes quarter to quarter, sometimes year over year. But we'll get through this here, and we'll obviously provide you guys with all the data here. So we'll just kind of cover the top 5 in each category here, and then you guys can obviously see the rest of them as well. So the first one that we're looking at here is obviously on the operation side of things. So we're looking at quarter over quarter hash rate growth. And then in Q1, Cleanspark came in at number 1 with 6.3 exahash growth, followed by TeraWolf at 3 exahash. Then you got Core with 2.3, Iris with 2.3 as well. And then Hive, I forgot to mention, Hive has not reported their I think it's their actually Q4 numbers possibly, but it's Q1 for the end of March numbers. So I gave them like the worst score possible out of all of these guys for everything here. So that's why they're going to score pretty bad here. But, you know, it's already the 20th in May. They should have been able to provide those numbers for us already. Everybody else has. They're the only ones that are out right now. Okay. So they got 13th place. So then you get Cypher being up 406 petahash. They're up in number 5 spot. And then you can see everybody else down below. You can see here on the charts as well. And then we look at quarter to year to date. So basically the same numbers as we have here. Once we get into Q2, we'll have different numbers because then we're looking at 6 months worth of growth instead of only the quarter here. So they all came in the same way for that one. Year over year hash rate added. So we're looking back to last year, right, for that quarter over quarter, year over year. And we can see here Marathon came in at number 1 with 13.5 exahash, almost 13.6. Followed by Cleanspark with 10.6, number 2 spot. CORZ Scientific with 5.5, almost 5.6, number 3 spot. BitDeer with 5.3, number 4 spot. And TeraWolf at 4 exahash, number 5 spot there. And then quarter bitcoins per exahash. So we're looking at the average hash rate there for the quarter, along with what they actually mined in Bitcoin, the average of that. And we're coming up with a BTC per exahash efficiency. And Cypher actually came in number 1 spot. Hive, obviously number 13 spot because they didn't report, but I'm using the data for their end of December numbers. They would have came in at number 2 spot if that was the case, but obviously they're number 13 spot. BitDigital, number 2 spot here, very efficient. CORZ Scientific also very efficient. Then you have Bitfarms and Cleanspark in number 5 spot as well. So those are the top 5 there. Going down here to quarter BTC mined. So who mined the most? And I'm looking only at self-mined BTC, not anything from JVs or anything like that. So take that into consideration here as well. And CORZ Scientific at this point came in at number 1 here, with 2,826, followed by Marathon at 2,425. Then you got Cleanspark at 2,031, number 3 spot. Riot at 1,363, number 4 spot. TeraWolf at 1,056. They came in number 5 spot here for that one. And then we're looking at quarter BTC per million shares. So how many Bitcoins did they mine per 1 million shares, basically. We're looking at that. And in this case, we have CORZ Scientific coming in at number 1 spot. And then we got with 15.89 BTC per million shares, Hut 8 with 9.5 BTC per million shares, so number 2 spot. Cleanspark with number 3 spot. Marathon number 4 spot. BitDeer number 5 spot. So that's kind of how that all worked out there. And then look at growth left, petahash wise, or exahash, however you want to look at it. How much growth do they have left going forward, right? Because that's also an important metric going forward for us, is to see where will they be in the future in the next basically 6 to 12 months roughly. And you can see here that Cleanspark has the most growth left potentially here based on what they reported as being bought already. They have 38 exahash worth of growth left. That's going to be down a little bit here, probably down to the 50. I think they're going to replace some of the older machines that they have there. That'll get them to possibly 50 exahash. So they're number 1 spot, followed by Riot. Number 2 spot here with 28 exahash. Marathon with 22 to get to 50 exahash. Then you got Iris, number 4 spot, and Bitfarms, number 5 spot. So those are the top 5 leaders there as far as future hash rate growth currently, as it stands right now. Okay. Now, when we look at quarterly financials here, I like to look at compensation versus revenue. So this includes everything that they include in SG&A. If they include share-based compensation, this is included in there, and that's part of it. I don't take it out here. All right. So if that's included in there, that's in there. Cleanspark came in number 1 here with 6.1% only based on the revenue. Core came in number 2 with 7.89, followed by BitDeer with 12.53. Then you got Hive, that's Hive is 13th spot. Iris, number 4 spot, 18.68. Excuse me. BitDigital, number 5 spot with 19.6%, right? So we want to keep them as low as possible. And I think a lot of these guys, once they reach scale and everything else, those numbers will drop for them, especially, Marathon had a lot, Riot had a lot. So a lot of that is contributable to share-based compensation in there added as well. Okay, so remember that. Okay, price to book ratio here. Core I gave you 11 because it's negative 2.065. So that's still being reflected in their financials because of the bankruptcy that they're getting out of or got out of and everything else. I'm still getting a negative number for them for some reason. BitDigital came in number 1 with 1.045. Excuse me, Riot with 1.098, number 2 spot. Hut with 1.1, number 3. Then we got Iris, number 4 spot, and BitDeer, number 5 spot for price to book ratio. When we look at current ratio, this is basically how well they're doing. So higher is better, right? How many times they can pay over their current obligations, or what's the word I'm looking for? their debt, current debt, basically. Not really debt, but just current liabilities. There we go. Marathon came in number 1 spot with 23 for the ratio. Cleanspark in number 2 spot with 12.5 roughly. BitDigital number 3 spot with 12.3. Riot number 4 spot with 8.4. Cypher number 5 spot with 8 current ratio, right? So they got definitely plenty of cash to pay going forward. Now, quarter over quarter, wow, I can't speak. Quarter over quarter current ratio. There we go. I just need to slow down a little bit. We're looking at that as well. So this is an improvement. How much did they improve from the prior quarter to the current quarter that we just obviously had Q1? And you got BitDigital coming in number 1 with a difference of an increase of 9.26, followed by Cleanspark 8.2, number 2 spot, Cypher number 3 spot, Bitfarms number 4, Core number 5 spot. And there's a top 5 for that. Going down here to debt to equity ratio, right? Lower is better. Core, obviously, again, I got a negative number on them, so they got number 13. So Riot actually has the best number here. It's at 1, it's 0.03, followed by Cleanspark with 0.05, Iris number 3 spot, 0.06, BitDigital number 4 with 0.098, and Cypher number 5 spot with 1.27. Then going quarter over quarter, the debt to equity ratio, again, looking for improvement there. TerraWolf improved the most here. Looks like they're number 1 spot here. Hut number 2 spot, BitDeer number 3, BitDigital number 4, and Bitfarms number 5 as well. Okay, and so that's all of the metrics there. And the way that's graded is the better the number is, obviously the top position. So you want the lower number in general on all these metrics to get a better score overall, right? So if we look at the total score metrics for growth, or just operations, I guess you could say, and we can see here that Cleanspark came in number 1 at 16, followed by CORZ Scientific at 25 points, Marathon at 37, along with Iris, and then TerraWolf at 40, and Cypher at 42. So those are kind of like the top 5 there based on this. And if we look at the total 6 score metrics for financials, we can see here that we got BitDigital with number 18, so they came in number 1 based on the financials, followed by Cleanspark at 26, Riot at 32, BitDeer at 34, Bitfarms at 35, and those are the top 5 there on those types of metrics. Right, so total scores on the 13 metrics, we now have Cleanspark number 1 spot, followed by BitDigital at 72, Iris at 74, then we got CORZ Scientific at 78, and Cypher at 79, so those are the top 5 based on those. Then I wanted to also, I've done this before, obviously in previous quarterly metrics on these guys, where I kind of do a weighted metrics on these, and I'll go into details on how I kind of weight them. So on the weighted side of things, which I think this is just for me, right? You guys might have different viewpoints on this, but certain things I would weigh more so than other things, right? So if we look at quarter over quarter hash rate growth, I weighted that at 0.5, right? Year-to-date hash rate growth at 0.5, year-over-year hash rate growth at 0.5. BTC per X hash efficiency, I grade that a little bit higher. That means that they're efficient. That's going to represent them mining with a much more higher uptime as well, right? And then growth as well, I've weighed that quite heavily at 2 also, because that's important to me, because growth obviously means good things going forward. Obviously reaching scale, all those things are helpful there. BTC mined, obviously 0.5 there as well, and then BTC per million shares as well. What are you actually getting for them mining? I graded that at just 1 there, okay? So based on those things, we still have Cleanspark coming in at number 1 spot with 18.5, followed by CORZ Scientific at 34, Cypher at 36, Iris at 36.5, Marathon at 41.5. So those are the top 5 there based on that weighted metrics for operations. If we look at the financial side of things here, I weighted current ratio and debt to equity ratio kind of high, 2, right, along with price to book ratio 2, compensation to revenue number 2, and then quarter over quarter debt to equity change over 1, and current quarter over quarter current at 1 as well. And at this point, you got BitDigital coming in at number 1 with 31 points, Cleanspark at number 2 spot with 41, Riot at 50, Iris at 54, and BitDeer 59. So those are the top 5 there. Combine all the scores together, and we get this chart down here. This is the weighted metrics here. So you got Cleanspark with 59.5 points, number 1 spot, BitDigital with 80 points, number 2 spot, Iris at number 3 spot with 90, Riot with 95, number 4 spot, and Cypher with 99 at number 5 spot. And then you got Bitfarms number 6, BitDeer number 7, Marathon number 8, Core number 9, Hut 8 number 10, TerraWolf number 11, and then Hive obviously didn't report, so they're at the very end here with the highest score. Okay, so here's how it stacks up, and here's how it stacks up with the non-weighted metrics. So they pretty much stayed the same. The top 3 stayed the same, regardless if you use the weighted metrics or non-weighted metrics. You got Cleanspark, BitDigital, and Iris all at the same spot. Then you get to change a little bit here on the weighted metrics for Riot instead of CORZ Scientific, and Cypher actually stayed in number 5 spot for those as well on those. Okay, So that is it on it. Let me know what you guys think of this. This is kind of what I like to look at as well, how things progress. And so far, it's worked out pretty well. Picking some of the better miners here going forward. We'll see if it all holds true going forward into this bull run. Obviously, things can definitely change on a dime here with the miners. But that is it, okay? And then as always, my little sales pitch here for you guys. All the Patreon members get access to all my spreadsheets. Those are updated, obviously, when I do update them. And they get published to Patreon right away at that point. Then you get 3 different files. You get a PDF, you get this Apple numbers file as well, and an exported Excel file on top of it as well there. So it should be easily accessible to everyone. And then the link for that is in the description. It's $8 a month for it right now. If you pay for the annual subscription, you get 10% off. And then might be still a couple spots open in the $5 range and the $4 range as well. You're more than welcome to use those as well if they're open. Okay, but that is it. That's my little sales pitch there. And let's get into the Q&A side of things, and we'll call it a day. Today was a fun day. Let's see what you guys have as far as questions. So this is also a little bit delayed. It's about 15 seconds or so delayed. So if you type in a question, I will get to your question. I will not miss your question, but I will get to it. But it might take me a while before I get to your question, okay? So let's see here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. A question: what are your takeaways from the Spaces talk today on X, particularly on the Penny Ether had to say? I mean, Penny has a lot of good things to say, right? He's very thoughtful and he's very meticulous in his analysis and things like that. As you know, Penny is a bull on Bitcoin, right? And on miners, he's a little bit more bearish, I guess you could say a little bit more, right? But he's come around to the fact that if Bitcoin rips higher, so are the miners, right? So there is a disconnect a little bit, I think, with the fundamentals between the miners and the pricing. Sometimes when Bitcoin goes into a bull run, that happens, and you can't explain that with numbers and everything else. Any data or analysis that you do on them, it just kind of goes out the window at that point, right? Because you get FOMO going into it, you got everybody hyping it up as well, right? You got us, me, you guys talking to your friends. Hey, this stock has gone up 100%, 200%, whatever in the last, and then you get that kind of self-repeating wheel, I guess, spinning, where things are just going to repeat and repeat and repeat, and the price is obviously going to go up much higher. So, but I like Penny. Penny's great. He obviously has some great questions on these miners, some great thoughts on them as well. So definitely somebody that you want to pay attention to as well, right? Because he makes you think, which is good. I like people that make me think. Let's see. Manuel, let's hope they announce a new CO. So, okay, so you're talking about Bitfarms there. I would say, yeah, then potentially. Let's see. Question: we have not got an update from Cleanspark if they're going to reach 20 exahash by June. Are you still bullish in Bitfarms? Yeah. So we have not gotten anything from Cleanspark on that. Obviously, we'll get something there at, 17 exahash right now as it is. So it's not too far away from getting to 20 exahash. They're obviously building out the facilities in Mississippi and possibly 1 or 2 facilities in Georgia that they have right now. So that, I'm guessing they're going to be close to it. If they don't get to 20 exahash, it's not the end of the world, right? If they get to 19 exahash or 19.5, whatever it might be, that's still fine. I mean, it's still huge growth for them this year, and they still have plenty of growth going forward. So they really need to concentrate on getting more infrastructure, more buildings bought or whatever to get to the 32 exahash that they want to get to this year. And then, am I still bullish on Bitfarms? Yeah, I think right now we're just in a little low on it because we've had a lot of a lot of FUD around Bitfarms with Paraguay, with Canadian taxes, new CEO, right? We're firing the CEO, getting new CEO, the CEO then suing the company as well. Once that kind of clears and settles a little bit, I think the stock is going to do much better. And if they can report that they're actually at 10 exahash at the end of May, that should help the stock. And then getting to 12 exahash by the end of June, that should help the stock as well. Yeah, why is Bitfarms lagging? I kind of just went over that right there. When do you think Cleanspark will hit 56 exahash? Okay. So they have machines ordered to get to 56 exahash, but I think 6 exahash of that is going to be possibly used to replace some of the older machines. So they're actually targeting 50 exahash, right? But I just don't know when they're going to do that. But right now, based on what they have installed and what they bought, they're getting to 50 exahash. Now, with that, they have the miners on order for this year. So will they get to 50 exahash this year? I don't know. They keep saying that they're getting to 32 exahash. They do have the miners to get to 50 exahash. Could they surprise us with a huge infrastructure buy or something like that, where they can plug in 200 megawatts of miners or something like that? It's possible. Could they get to the 50 exahash this year? That would be great, obviously, right? But I'm not counting on it right now. I just want them to get to possibly 32 exahash or close to that by the end of the year, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Let's see. Do you think the miners should let their stocks run a few weeks before hitting the ATM? Seems they could then bank their expansion with less dilution. Yeah, I mean, that's always a tricky thing for them, right? Is when do you, nobody can tell the future where Bitcoin's going to go, right, in a couple of weeks, right? Everybody wants to be smart about it and how they're doing it. A lot of the miners were diluting at a much lower share price than where the shares are right now, right? So in order to grow, you kind of have to do that, unfortunately. But it's, as long as it's accretive to investors, I think that's a good thing there, and I'm okay with it, right? IREN reported they're getting another 500 million ATM here just last week, and the stock continued to run up. Why? Because they actually came out that they're going to get to 30 exahash by the end of Q4, right? Instead of getting to 20 exahash, and they're getting to 20 exahash in Q3. So they upped their timelines and increased their timelines, or increased their hash rate growth as well. So that's kind of what's growing this stock right now. Let's see. Why would you pick Bitfarms over BitDigital? Even according to your current stats, you have them higher. Yes, BitDigital has done better here as far as financials and things like that. Bitfarms was paying off their debt. They just finished paying off their debts this year. Sometime this year, they finished off their debt that they had. Now they're focusing on growth, right? And what I'm looking forward is growth. And Bitfarms is supposed to get to 21 exahash by the end of the year. BitDigital is saying that they're only going to get to 6 exahash, right? So there's only basically a 2x growth for BitDigital, where there's possibly 3x growth and tremendous growth too at that rate. So that's kind of why I'm looking at it. Bitfarms is also a very efficient miner as well, and they have facilities all over the place, whereas BitDigital does not own, I don't believe they own any of their facilities. I think they host everything that they have, right? So that's that. And then also the AI side of things has been improved, but we do see that they have pretty good margins on the AI side of things, around 60 to 70%, which is great, right? But I'm still more into Bitcoin miners, and I think the Bitcoin miners, especially Bitcoin price going up much higher, will have a much more multiple on those potentially, especially the ones that are growing, okay? Hope that makes sense. Okay. Do you think Riot will make it happen? Can they do 5 to 10x if Bitcoin reaches 150 to 200,000? Thanks, Seb. 5 to 10x from here would be basically them getting to, where's the stock at right now? Can't remember. Let me see here. Riot is at $10, so that'd be around $50 to a 10x would be $100 or so. I think that might be definitely possible towards the higher end of 200,000 for Bitcoin potentially, right? The big thing for them is, of course, to kind of get that build out as fast as they can, put hash rate in there as fast as they can, much better operations there as they can, right? We want to see much more uptime there. If they can do those things, I think the stock is going to do very well going forward. Let's see. Hey, Sebastian, I'm holding 4,000 at 1050 and Cleanspark and 27. Which stock? Which one are you? I'm holding 4,000 at 1050 and Cleanspark at 27. Which stock should I add? Which stock do you have 4,000 in? Is it Cleanspark or somebody else? I would look at also, like, I mean, Marathon's obviously one of the big ones here. Obviously, they have name recognition. So you can look at Marathon, Riot, Bitfarms, IREN as well. I think those are the ones that are going to be growing the most this year. Those are the ones I'd look at. And then obviously operations side of things, look at those as well. Which ones are operating really well? Track record of getting to where they're saying that they're going to get to as well. Use that. So I'd look at those as well and just kind of diversify that way potentially, right? But not financial advice. Okay. How do you plan on managing your personal greed when prices will be higher? Yeah, that's a good question, right? It's one of those things that kind of kicked me in the rear in the last cycle when I had Hive at that point. I could have taken like 70,000 in profit at that point. I didn't because everybody was saying that Bitcoin's going to 100,000. We only got to 69,000, right? So I was left holding the bags. Learned my lesson on that one. I'm going to dollar cost average out as obviously Bitcoin price gets closer to 100,000 and above it, because I just don't know where the top is going to be. It could be 125,000, it could be 105,000. I just don't know. So we'll have to keep an eye on. We'll have to see where Bitcoin goes, and then obviously Bitcoin probably pulls back a little bit, maybe down like 20%, and it goes even further down. That might be kind of the time to really start taking more off at that point. Maybe, I just don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on things. Maybe sell half of it, see where the other half goes. But dollar cost average out half, and then see where the other half goes potentially. I just don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Riot? It's not getting the gains it used to get. Yeah, and I think that's mainly because of their operations in the past, right? They haven't been great. They've been struggling with uptime and efficiencies and things like that at Riot, at the Rockdale facility. If they can fix those things going forward, I think the stock is going to do much better. Plus, they put in a bunch of share-based compensation here recently in the Q1. That obviously didn't sit well, possibly with investors as well, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Let's see. Do you have a detailed selling strategy during this bull cycle? It's extremely important. Yeah, I just basically start to dollar cost average out at a certain point, all right? We don't know where Bitcoin price. I don't know where Bitcoin price is going to go. I don't think you guys know either. With the ETFs, all the adoption and everything else, we could go much higher than we really expect to. I'd like to get to 7 figures in my portfolio. If I can do that, I'll start probably dollar cost averaging out some more. But that's kind of the goal here, is to get as close to that 7-figure potentially profits, or in general, right? The value of the assets, basically. If I can do that, I'll be a happy camper this time around. Definitely help out financially at home and everything else, right? Do things that I've possibly not been able to do in the past, but also be able to invest more in the future as well. So that's kind of the goal there. We'll see how close we can get to it. If we get above that, all the better, but if we get close to it, I'll be happy as well. Okay, same question. So you're asking, I'm holding 4,000 at 1050 Cleanspark and 2750 Woodstock at 2750. I don't know what that 2750 is for. Please clarify the question. Question, why is Bitfarms lagging behind? Obviously, there's a lot of questions regarding Bitfarms. The main reasons is the CEO, right? We're getting fired now, suing the company. The FUD in Paraguay, the FUD with taxes in Canada as well. We just had a lot of FUD around Bitfarms, and I think that's kind of why. And we need to see basically them installing the hash rate that they said they're going to get to. So 10 exahash by the end of May, 12 exahash by the end of June, and then 21 exahash by the end of the year. We really need to see that. If we start seeing that, then I think the stack will do much better. Let's see. Are you not worried about a Paraguay ban following the ban in Venezuela? No. If you listen to Ben on the conference call, right, he said that there's a lot of politicians that are in favor of the companies selling the electricity to Bitcoin miners because it's more profitable for them to do that than selling it to their neighbor, which is, I think, Brazil. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think it's Brazil, right? So I think there's more interest now than ever. And if the miners are obviously doing the right things, they're operating within the laws, they're doing things correctly, I think there's going to be, I don't think there's going to be any chance of them getting banned, right? The only ones that might get banned are the ones that are operating illegally, that are stealing electricity or something like that, right? Then that's kind of what that original law was going to be for, was to ban, put a stop on mining for a certain amount of time while they can figure out who's in there legally, possibly, and who's not in there legally, I guess. Let's see. Where do you see the top of Bitfarms this cycle if they get to 21 access by the end of the year? I'm thinking somewhere between, like, depending where Bitcoin goes, my rough estimates are somewhere between $15 and possibly like $30, right? Depends where Bitcoin goes. Hard to tell. Let's see. Question, any news on Cleanspark Wemming deal blocked by Biden? That's a separate company, so I think you guys are mixing those up. That Chinese company that's been banned, that's different from what Cleanspark has been buying. So I believe that's the case, but correct me, I believe that's the case, because that, yeah, otherwise it would have came out and already talked about it, but they haven't talked about it. I believe that's a different story there. And yeah, that's obviously why we want them to buy more infrastructure and things like that, so they can get to 32 exahash and 50 exahash as well. They need to buy more. Question is, Mara is going to hit 50 exahash this year. If Bitcoin hits 150,000, does 100, 250, and 200 price targets seem possible? Yeah, at that point, yeah. I mean, if they're at 50 exahash, that's huge growth for them there. If Bitcoin gets to 150,000 or 200,000, whatever it might be, then yeah, they could definitely get to those price targets somewhere in between there, I would say. Based on IREN speed building out their centers, even Dan says they are getting better and efficient on building. Do you think they could reach 50 exahash first half of 2025? Ooh. They're stating that, well, they're stating that they might get to 40 exahash like in the first quarter. So 50 exahash in the first half of 2025 might be doable at that point, right? Depending how fast you can build out the infrastructure there to put the miners in. So it might be doable. Let's see. Purchased mining stocks recently, a bit late. Hold it till peak 2024, 2025. Yeah, I mean, you don't know where the peak is going to be, so try to time it as best as you can. I mean, if you're up in profits, there's no shame in taking profits, right? If you're up 100%, 200%, 300%, whatever it might be, take profits, right? Or just dollar cost average out potentially at that point, because I don't know where the top's going to be. Nobody knows where the top's going to be. So trying to time it perfectly is going to be very, very difficult. Do you think Riot will improve their efficiency with Corsicana? Thanks. Yeah, based on what I heard from Jason there, they're saying that they're looking to possibly curtail like 5 or 7% of the time there only for the year, right? Which would be actually really good. So their operations should be much better there, but we need to verify that, right? With obviously we need to see the results when they do energize more and more of their hash rate in Corsicana. We need to see their operational efficiencies there, have those improved, and also have they improved their efficiencies at Rockdale as well with getting new miners in there. So yes. Is Bitfarms fully funded to 21 exahash? Not that I know of, at least not yet. I think they still have a little bit more to pull on the ATM that they have to get there. They haven't come out and stated that they are fully funded 21 yet, so I'm guessing that's not the case. But we probably should be pretty close to it. I'm guessing within the next couple of weeks, couple of months, they should be fully funded to that. And I think they're just trying to pull on the ATM as little as possible to have as little impact on the stock price potentially, which is tough balancing act, right? Especially with Bitcoin going up now, it might be a little bit easier for them. If you had to pick one miner besides Cleanspark right now to go all in on and get the highest return, which are you picking? I would probably say IREN right now. Right, they've just increased their hash rate even beyond what Bitfarms is getting to by basically almost double that. So I would go with IREN probably if I had to pull everything into one. But Bitfarms is a close second at that point right now because they're just way undervalued from where they should be because of the FUD. Let's see. Do you think Riot is late on the Corsicana process? Thanks, Seb. I'm going to sleep. It's 3:08 in Portugal. Well, yeah. Thanks for watching, and definitely go get some sleep. But they were planning this for a while, right? For several years now to build out this facility. Their timing could have been a little. I think the timing was okay, right? They're building out obviously now into the bull run, which is good. Could they have done it going into the bear or into the halving event a little bit sooner than that? That would have been, I think, more ideal, but it's not that much bad. It's not that much worse, I think. If they were just maybe 6 months ahead of that schedule, that would have been nice, but it's not that, it's not the end of the world there. Let's see. High question. Still you holding Bitfarms when you planning to exit? Yeah, I'm still holding Bitfarms. I haven't sold anything. I'm at a position where I want to be at. I want to get into IREN more so, but Ryan's IREN's starting to run up on me a little faster than I wanted it to. I wanted to buy some more this week and last week, but I'm like, okay, maybe we'll get a little dip here. I can buy some more, but we haven't seen that dip yet, so I'll probably have to bite the bullet and actually buy at the little bit higher prices than I wanted to, but I do want to buy some more of that. And I'm still holding Bitfarms till later on this year, right, wherever it peaks. Once it gets too close to where I think it might get to, then I'll start dollar cost averaging out of it. Where do you see Bitfarms going if they reach 21 exahash at the top of the bull cycle? I think somewhere between $15 and $30 definitely doable depending where Bitcoin goes, right? If Bitcoin only goes up to 125,000, we might be only at like $6, $7, $8, something like that at that point, right? It's not a lot of growth in Bitcoin, so we wouldn't see a lot of growth in obviously the miners as well. Let's see. You think this is the end of the Bitcoin dips? I waited too long for a big dip and missed the opportunity to buy. Yeah, I mean, if you look at just the past year on Bitcoin itself, we're dipping at about like 13 to 20% dips. We're seeing those kind of as being common, right? We're not seeing these massive dips where we saw before, 30, 40% or something like that. So this cycle is, like I said before, it's different, and we may not see those major dips again. We might see these 15, 20% dips, and maybe that's all we're going to get, right? So yeah, dollar cost averaging as best as you can. It's never easy picking the bottoms and never easy finding the tops either. Do you think this run is due to the NVIDIA earnings and Ethereum ETF approval potentially? It's partially that. I think it's also partially, I mean, we were running last week as well. So I think it's just this cycle is different all around. Spot Bitcoin ETFs, everything else. That's all having a huge impact on it. Obviously, the supply shock as well is helping that. So, and I think we had over 10,000 inflows into the ETFs last week in Bitcoin. And what did the miners produce only? Like 3,000, something like that. So there's still a huge disconnect from what the supply is and what's actually available out there in the market. So as long as you have more people holding and not selling, you're going to have the price of Bitcoin continuing to go up. Would you exit Bitfarms if they get banned in Paraguay? Probably at that point, yeah. If they get banned in Paraguay, then yeah, because a lot of their growth is positioned in Paraguay right now. So, but I don't see that happening, right? Ben, if you listen to Ben on any of the interviews that he does or anything like that, he stated before that they have far less governmental hurdles in like Paraguay than they do in like the Canada and United States, which is just crazy to think about. But if that's the truth, well, then you can see why it's advantageous for them to be in Paraguay, and they know that place really well, that jurisdiction. So I don't see that being a problem. Hi, question. Do you think Hive can 3 to 5x from here? Bitcoin goes up, yeah. I mean, Bitcoin goes up to, let's just say 2x, 3x from here, wherever it might be. Then yeah, I think they can definitely at least follow Bitcoin potentially going up. They have done a pretty good job of replacing some of their older miners. They're getting to, I think, 6 extra hash, maybe even more than that by the end of the year. So if they can do that, I think they even say that they want to get to like 10 extra hash potentially. So that would be a good sign there. And I think they can definitely do that going forward. I already own IREN, Bitfarms, and Cleanspark. Which other miner would you recommend me buying? Well, geez, if you own those are some of the better ones. I would say get into maybe Riot as well. Riot, I think, is right now being undervalued based on their past operations. If they can fix those, they can do much better. Marathon, obviously, is the big dog here. They have the name recognition. They could do very well going forward as well, even regardless if they have operational issues or not. They have a huge HODL position as well. So does Riot. So those guys. And then after that, I would say maybe CORZ right now is a little bit of a gamble, right? What's the term there? I can't think of it right now. High risk, high return potentially. There we go. Right. Gold has gone up substantially higher. Bitcoin is a new digital gold. What is the conservative price target in 2024 and 2025 for Bitcoin? My target was, this is going back now about a year, maybe 2 years even. I think I put out that I expect Bitcoin to get to like 180,000 this year, with this bull run at least, right? Now, that was before we had the spot Bitcoin ETFs and everything else. That changes things. We could go much higher than that. I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm guessing at least we'll get to 125,000 plus. But where we're going to end up at, I have no idea. I'm holding Cleanspark at 7.7. Would it be wise to switch to IREN? I mean, that's your call there. I'm not. I have Cleanspark at, my average is like 350, 360, something like that. I'm holding on to it because I think I can still do very well going forward. IREN, obviously, more undervalued right now than Cleanspark is. That's your call there, whether it makes sense for you to sell that. Would you be paying a short-term gains on it or long-term gains? I'm going to take that into consideration, but you have to take into what's best for you. See. Are we expecting any new ATMs from Cleanspark, Marathon, or any other miners? We don't want Cleanspark to do it again. I mean, Cleanspark already has an 800 million ATM. Marathon has a, 1.5 billion, I think, ATM out there already. So I don't expect anything new, at least not right now. How would you allocate 10,000 into Bitcoin miners if you were to start fresh? I would look at the miners that are growing nicely this year, good operations, good uptime, good track record of getting things done. Those are the ones I would look into, right? That's kind of, I think, where the market is pricing those miners a little bit higher than others. Let's see here. Seems like we are at a stage in the cycle that the recent lows should be the lows, though on thoughts on adding a large position and semi-trading that and letting all my previous positions run. Thoughts? Oh boy, that's up to you. I don't trade. I buy and hold. Then I dollar cost average in, I dollar cost average out. So I wouldn't be the right person to ask on that. I mean, if you have the time to do it, go for it. Obviously, it's your choice there, but something that you have to obviously weigh as far as what's best for you. Recent interview with Dan Roberts, he said that their entire land portfolio of over 3,000 megawatts, 3 gigawatts of power will be able to install 170 to 190 worth of exahash. That would be insane. That'll work out. They might get actually more than that, depending on which miners they buy, right? If they buy newer generation miners that are coming out and as they're building out, they could possibly even get more than that, I think, based on the numbers that they're providing here. But that's a lot to build out. Are you sure the Paraguay ban does not seem possible still? Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think listen to Ben. Listen to some of the things that he's talked about in interviews and on the conference call as well. Venezuela has also massive energy resources and banned mining in their country for the same reason due to illegal mining. Yes, but Venezuela also actually doesn't have as many doesn't have the same resources, right? If you look at them, they're saying that they're having brownouts and blackouts and things like that because of the stress that the mining is putting on the network there. It's also different country, different governments, different things happening there. So you can't look at one and go over to the other one and say that's the same thing. It's different, right? Paraguay has a huge hydropower plant that they're operating out of. They're also selling a lot of their electricity to, I believe it's Brazil. And they've stated, the legislators have stated there that they see Bitcoin mining more beneficial to them because they can actually generate more revenue from it than selling it to their neighbor. Okay, so you got to take that into consideration as well. Hi, question. Do you think IREN has more upside potential than Cleanspark? IREN plans to go to 30 exahash versus Cleanspark 32, but trades at 1/4 the value. Yeah, I think based on where it's at right now, depending when you buy Cleanspark, right? I got Cleanspark dollar cost average into it. I'm at $3 and something and change for the average share price on it, right? So for me, it doesn't make any sense for me to switch over into IREN right now. But that's why I want to buy it more into IREN because I think there might be a little bit more upside potential from here for IREN, right? Cleanspark, same thing. They're getting to possibly 50 exahash. We don't know exactly when, whether it's going to be this year or possibly next year, but they do have already the miners purchased for that. And they also have a Bitcoin hodl that's helping them with obviously FASB rules. IREN does not have a Bitcoin hodl, and they're obviously domiciled in Australia, so they can't really use that anyways, I don't believe. So you got to look into all the things happening in there. So I think Cleanspark can still do easily 5 to 10x here, whereas maybe IREN can do 5 to 15x, right? We just don't know, or maybe even more. It just depends how well they grow and do going forward. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Thank you for correcting this. Yeah, this makes more sense. I'm holding 4,000 at 1050 and Cleanspark 2750 at 1685. Which stock should I add? I would say look into like the ones that I've said, IREN, Bitfarms. I think those are way undervalued. And also look into CORZ and Marathon and Riot as well. Those guys should do pretty well going forward as well. Which miner will be first profitable after the halving event? Good question there. You might have some of the smaller miners actually be more profitable depending on how much they're expending out and things like that. One of those might be like Hive. They've been through this before. They have a good balance sheet. They also run a tight ship. You might also have, see here, BitDigital. Obviously, BitDigital has their AI side of things that's continuing to bring in revenue for them. And then Cleanspark has been pretty lean lately, right? And depending where Bitcoin goes, if Bitcoin goes up past the previous all-time high of 73,000, whatever it was, to like 80,000 or something like that. That's obviously going to be revaluation on their Bitcoin that they hodl. So you got that. Marathon, obviously the same thing. Riot, same thing as well. So there might be a couple that still are going to be EPS positive potentially, depending on how they build out. There's just a lot of variables that go into that to really figure it out. Bitfarms or IREN, if you had to go all in, based on their growth, I would have to say right now it would be probably IREN, right? I was getting into Bitfarms a little bit earlier than I was getting into IREN. IREN was a little questionable for me last year because of the special purpose vehicles that they had to return. So I wanted to see how they continue to grow out going forward. Also, I wanted to see if they could possibly provide us with quarterly results. Before they were providing us with biannual results. Didn't really like that. I thought it was a little bit of a negative on the stock because we couldn't really compare them to other miners, how they're doing versus other miners. So, but that's being fixed. Obviously, they're reporting quarterly now, so that's good. That's why I want to start getting more into them. So I would say possibly IREN would be maybe the better bet right now because of the exahash growth that they're having that way. Let's see. Hello. Any new opinions about Annie? It went up 48% today. Yeah, I talked about it in the beginning of the show. I think they went up 48%. They don't have a lot of shares outstanding. That's the main reason there. I think they're just being manipulated. Bitcoin's going up, so they're just somebody's like, ooh, these guys are way down. Time to pump them up a little bit, right? We saw that. We saw that with Mawson as well. Same thing. I think it's just a little manipulation there possibly happening because it's just a low share amount. So it doesn't take much to actually pump the stocks up much higher. Let's see. Are all the miners that are pumping hard are U.S. domiciled? Any worries over this? No. IREN had a nice couple of days here since last week, so a little pullback from them, profit taken is expected to happen with that. And then obviously you're seeing, well, there is a little bit of disconnect, I guess you could say, with obviously the FSB rules. Like Bitfarms can't take advantage of it because they're in Canada. Hive, obviously, same thing. Yeah, but Bitfarms actually has done pretty well compared to the rest of the miners as well, right? It's like in the top 5 as far as 52-week gains here since their bottom. So they're still pretty good there. And what else can I say? But going forward, I don't think that's going to be a concern with Bitcoin going up in value. I think them growing their hash rate, that's the bigger thing there, is operations and hash rate growth. Give Hive Management a score out of 10, depending what you're scoring them on. Is it going to be on future hash rate growth? Probably give them like a 2 or a 3. If you're scoring them on efficiencies, lean capital structures, and financial results and things like that, I would probably give them like an 8 or something like that. Or for efficiencies, I'd probably give them like a 9, right? They're very efficient as far as when it comes to mining. It's the other things that are obviously issues there, potentially. Okay. Already covered that one. Basically, manipulation with the stock. Cleanspark bought the Chinese company. Okay, if they bought the Chinese company, then right, there really shouldn't be any FUD around it. But if the U.S. government is saying that they're blocking the purchase of a Chinese company at that facility, whatever, so I think it's a different story. I think it's a different setup. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. Are you going to be here next cycle? I'm gonna miss you. Yeah, I'll be here. I don't have any plans right now. Things can change, obviously, right? Life, health, things can change. I'm not going to say I'm going to be here for sure, but the intent is to be here, right? I enjoy doing this. I'm doing the research anyways on these guys, so I might as well share it with you guys. And I like kind of interacting with you guys because you guys challenge me a little bit, which I like. Let's see here. Time to panic in or wait for the double top at 72. Asking for a friend he knows you should have been DCing. Yeah, I don't know if I would just say DCA, and if you can, you don't know where the top's going to be, you know where the bottom's going to be at. So DCA is the way to go for me, at least. It's worked out, but I've been doing this for now 2.5 years, roughly, DCing into these miners. So it hasn't been a quick, easy gain. It's been definitely painful at times as well, right? Miners were down in 2022. It was definitely hard. Bitfarms was down like 80%. Cleanspark was down 60% of my portfolio. So it wasn't easy. It's not something that just happened overnight. It's been a continuation grind and looking into these miners and seeing how they're doing, and are they still like the top miners that I'm wanting to get into? And so far it's worked out with Cleanspark. Bitfarms obviously has a little bit underperformed. IREN has also, but I think going forward they will do pretty well going as well. Question: when do you think Bitfarms will go up? I think we need, obviously, the new CEO to be appointed, whoever that might be. I'd like to see that as Ben Kenyon, but we'll see who we get. After that, they just need to report that they get to 10 exahash, potentially, or close to that in May, 12 exahash, or close to that by June. I think that would definitely help the stock go forward from there. Paraguay also having blackouts due to energy, just to let you know. This is the reason for the... Yes, but the bill is basically because you got people that are illegally connecting to the energy grid and then sucking all the electricity out of that. That's why they're having issues with that, and that's why they were going to ban it for new entrants to come into the country, because they need to get basically a hold of all the illegal mining that's going on there that's screwing up their systems in like these local communities that are having these issues, right? So it's not the whole country that's having an issue. It's local areas that are having issues because somebody's going in there with, I don't know, 100, 200, 300, 500 miners, whatever it might be, and sucking up the whole energy for that would be used for the whole area there. So that's the reason. Are you still confident in Wyoming property? Cleanspark is moving on, is not association with the Chinese company. Yeah, I think it's two different topics there. I think there's a Chinese company that's wanting to buy or had bought the land over there or something for Bitcoin mining, and Cleanspark has a different facility, I believe. I believe those are two separate facilities that we're dealing with there. Maybe I should reach out to Matt at Cleanspark or Taylor to find out if that's associated, but I thought those were different. Maybe I'll do that. I'll tweet at them and see what they say. Even without the FSB, IREN is still profitable. Yeah, I don't think BTC on the balance sheet will be as valued like last cycle. Look at Hut 8, they're operational stuck, but holdover, yeah. I mean, so it's not being valued on that, but I think it can help, right? So there's a time to hodl and there's a time not to hodl. I think hodling before the halving event and after the halving event until Bitcoin goes up to a parabolic rise, that's a good time to do it, but you also want to sell it at a certain point, right? So when you get closer to the tops, you got to start starting to sell a little bit. Companies like Hut 8, they hodled through the bull run, they hodled through the bear market. They basically diluted shareholders to crap because of it. And I mean, their operations were terrible because of it, right? Instead of investing the company, instead of investing like the ATMs and the dilution into new miners, growth and things like that, they were investing in Bitcoin hodl. So that's where I don't like it. Let's see, which miner has the biggest hodl and lowest debt? I think that's gonna be probably Marathon. Marathon still has 300 million that's due in 2027, I want to say, potentially, right? But that's like a 1% interest rate, so that's nothing. Question on miners with HPC. From an operational point of view, can the miner just swap out S21 T21s for their 8100 depending on market conditions, or does it require more complicated adjustments? Okay, so it depends on the customer, right? If you get a customer that doesn't really care much about uptime and right, they don't need 99.99999% uptime. If they don't need that, if they just want to run their large language models and they can be curtailed or shut down for whatever reason, right? If they can do that and pay a lower cost for it and you can find those customers, then you can just swap out those for the H100s. Obviously, the H100s would probably run more ideally in a controlled environment, like a tier 3, tier 4 data center, but they can run, obviously, in a regular Bitcoin mining farm, as long as you got proper filtration, at least in there, and it doesn't get too hot in there, so proper ventilation as well. But obviously, humidity, things like that can affect the components in those machines as well and degrade them over time. So something to think about as well. Let's see. Interesting, I thought it was the lack of infrastructure that was in Paraguay that caused the blackouts and not so much even the illegal miners. They just use them as a scapegoat to get attention that way. I mean, it goes both ways. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that I've heard from Ben is just basically saying that there's obviously illegal mining if you don't have the proper facilities set up for it and you don't have the proper connections from the electrical grid to it, you're going to cause a blackout, brownout at a local region. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Why would you pick IREN over Riot? One has dilution and the other is fully funded for their growth and have similar goals. Operational uptime, right? So IREN has historically done better as far as operational uptime. Also efficiencies, things like that. And that's why I would kind of go with them. They're also more undervalued right now than I think Riot is. Okay, that's the way I look at things. It's operational uptime, efficiencies, track record of the management, things like that. If they can do those things, then that's kind of where I go towards. Where would you rank Cleanspark on your list of miners? Right now, it's my number one miner. I'm up, I think today I passed over 400% on it from where I was. So I'm up nicely on that. So I would rank that as my number one miner as far as the pick is concerned. And it's obviously done the best here in the last 52 weeks compared to the other miners when you look at that from the bottoms, at least for everybody. Sorry for bombarding you with questions. You're the best. Yeah, I mean, no problems. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them as best as I can, right? Let's see. What percentage of Hut's revenue is made up of HPC versus self-hosting? Let me see if I have that number for you. Bear with me while I look at Hut 8 really quick. There's Hut 8. Let me see if I have that broken down. I think I may have that broken down, maybe not, but we'll see. So the revenue side of things, looking at that, their self-mining came in at, where was that? The 30 million. Their managed services came in at 9.2. High-performance computing came in at 3.3. So high-performance computing percentage was only 6.4%, and the profit margin on that was 22% on the high-performance computing side of things. Will the Ethereum ETF approval have any impact on miners? Not unless it has an impact on Bitcoin itself, right? The miners don't mine Bitcoin anymore. There's a couple miners that still, I think, who is it? Is it only BitDigital or somebody else? I can't remember now. But there's one that still has a staking Ethereum, right? So they're getting from that. So obviously the price going up on that may have an impact on their balance sheet also, but maybe on the revenues that they get from that, maybe. Not sure. What do you think of Hut 8 or Hut this far? Do you think the new CEO can help them climb back up to the top tier? I don't know. I mean, it seems like they're more focused on managed services and hosting and things like that instead of their own self-mining right now. That's tough. I would like them to at least replace their older equipment, get that up and running. If they do that, I mean, they can probably just double their hash rate just on that alone if they get newer machines on that without needing any new infrastructure for it. So I look at, I mean, you can see their operation side of things and where the stock is priced at. Look at their HODL position and what's that valued of their market cap. It's like 80% of their market cap is their HODL position right now. They're not being valued on their operational skills or operational self-mining, I guess you could say, right? They do obviously have the managed services as well, which adds in revenue and things like that. But yeah, I'd like to see them grow more on that self-mining. Let's see here. I did the same thing in HUT in 2021, Sebastian, but my profits were in HUT 8. Should have taken profits, but didn't at 69. Yeah, now looking to DCA out at the right times too. Won't hang on like last time. Yeah, I think a lot of us learned that lesson last time going forward. Do you think the AI business in Bit Digital and Hive are going to play a huge role in their business? Well, it's already playing a pretty big role in Bit Digital's, right? They have a $50 million contract, potentially getting that improved to a $100 million contract, right? So that's going to be big business for them. Hive has high ambitions, but we're just not seeing it right now converted over into revenue. They have good growth plans and what they're trying to get to as far as revenue from that, but we're just not seeing it right now, and we need to obviously see that be effect. Let's see. HODL or no HODL? I like it when companies HODL. Obviously, IREN does not HODL, right? They're using everything that they mine basically into their infrastructure and their growth plans and things like that, but they're also obviously diluting because of it. But they also have a different kind of mindset on it. Dan has spoken. They view Bitcoin kind of like gold, right? Gold miners mine it and they sell it. They're doing the same thing, but they're also not opposed to possibly hodling it at a later date potentially, right? If it makes sense for them. Right now, they're just trying to dilute shares as little as possible by selling the Bitcoin that they do mine to fund their growth and things like that, which I can see okay, but I still would have liked them to hodl a little bit more because I think there is an opportune time to hodl, especially when you get into the halving event, after the halving event, and then you want to sell towards the top. You can definitely make a lot of money on that hodl position, which I think is at that point accretive to investors as well. Let's see. Is 830 BTC HODL enough to really get recognition by investors by Bitfarms? Yeah, I mean it's something, right? It's valued. What is that valued at? The 50 million or something like that right now. I can't remember what that's valued, but right around there. So that's obviously going to help if Bitcoin goes up to double here or 3x from here. That's going to be valued 2 to 3x that. So they do have obviously that benefit going for them, and they are obviously having good growth here plans for the future, which obviously is going to help here. I think they're going to be valued more on their growth going forward than their HODL right now. Let's see. Does BTC ETF and potential growth hurt BTC miners? No, because the people that are buying the Bitcoin ETF are not going to be people that are going to be investing in the Bitcoin miners anyways, right? That's a different subclass of investors. You're looking at people that throw their money into mutual funds, growth funds, things like that, where the money is invested in pensions and profit sharing plans and 401k plans, Roth IRA plans, right? Those types of things. So that's kind of where that money's coming from there. It's not really going into the miners because a lot of those places you were not able to invest in the individual stocks. You can only invest in the ETFs or the mutual funds, things like that. So I don't think that's going to hurt at all. The people that got into the miners are obviously more seasoned traders, I think, right? They're from the Bitcoin community as well. They look at Bitcoin, they see Bitcoin miners as a proxy to that, where it could possibly go up more. So you're having that type of thing. But you're also seeing more institutions buying into the miners themselves as well. So we're seeing that more so this cycle than we did last cycle as well. So that's actually really good too. Let's see. When will you buy Mara? Oh, geez, I don't know. If I get enough shares of IREN, maybe then I'll start buying into Mara and Riot at that point. But that's kind of the goal here. If Mara had much better operations, uptime and things like that, and consistent, I probably would have been buying them a long time ago, right? They're one of the biggest ones, but always whenever they started to do really well, they did something where, well, they didn't do it themselves, but sometimes they did. But a lot of times it was just a facility or infrastructure problems or something like that. So that's the reason why I couldn't really get into them. I want to get into miners that are very efficient. Uptime is great. Good growth plans going forward. I think maybe there's maybe a little bit more multiple X on those, maybe. Right, we'll have to see how this plays out for me. This is the first bull run that I've been doing this kind of where I'm heavily deep in the metrics. And based on that, Cleanspark so far is working out for me as far as the gains. But will it maintain that through the whole bull run? We'll have to see. So that's kind of where I'm at. Okay, and let's see. When would you stop DCing? The risk of buying too late in the cycle is huge in these miners. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm kind of thinking about IREN right now. IREN's starting to run on me. I'll probably continue to buy into it. I didn't start buying into it anyways until November of last year. So my price on the average price on it right now is like at $4, something else, $5, I believe. So I'm pretty high on the average anyways right now. So if I continue to buy in, if I can continue to buy in while it's still under maybe $10, I'd be happy. Maybe even under $15, I would say. If I can continue to buy in at those prices, I think that would be a good way to go. But once you start getting to like $20, $25 per share, then your upside is limited as far as what it could do, unless it comes out that it's going to get to 100 exahash, and at that point it could go much higher than that, right? So there's a lot of things that go into play here. Okay, yeah, Bitfarms HODL is worth 58. Yeah, so it's right around there, 50-some million. So it's no chump change, right? It's definitely substantial. If it goes 2x, 3x from there, you're looking at a nice return on it. Within a year, IREN TM2, yeah, IREN's getting to 50 exahash potentially next year. I mean, they said 40 exahash and potentially 50 exahash. Yeah, I think 50 exahash would be sometime next year, potentially. Let's see. Riot has a shareholder vote in June to doubling their operation. Yeah, I saw that. I think they're going from, what is it, 300 something or 400 million to like 800 million or something like that. I remember reading about that, but I just can't remember the exact numbers. But yeah, they're going to have to do that, obviously, because in order to grow in this industry, you need to have an ATM or use shares for growth, unless they can get to a point and Bitcoin stays elevated for a long period of time where they're making nice revenue, consistent revenue going forward, then they may not need to use that ATM as much. Yes, slap the like button, guys. We highly appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see. Will FASB rules for Mara will be riskiest hold near the end of the bull market? Yeah, I mean, if they don't sell anything, obviously the revaluation of that, if Bitcoin starts going down, if we have another bear cycle, that's the big question here. We have a different cycle in the beginning of the bull run. Will we have a different cycle towards the end? What if Bitcoin continues to go up, but maybe it goes up much slower and longer? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. And that's something that we don't know because everything is different this cycle. We can't really go by past cycles with it until we actually get through this cycle and then reevaluate, okay, what things were the same, what things were not the same, how did things play out, and how things were different. Okay. That's something we'll be doing it. Okay. But that is basically it, guys. We got maybe one more question here. It's going to pop up here in a second. This is a little delayed. There it is. All right, last question of the night. Is there a time frame you'd sell everything, meaning say it's fall of 2025, BTC didn't break 100,000, would you say the cycle is over? Oh, wow. If we get to 2025 fall and we're only at 100,000, yeah, things are definitely not working out for us at that point. We're definitely kind of going sideways a little bit for a long time and going up a little bit here. It wouldn't be huge gains. So yeah, at that point, I would say things are maybe broken and depending where the miners are priced at that point. But if Bitcoin's only 100,000 and with all the hash rate that we have coming online, the miners are going to get decimated because of that. So we're going to probably see a lot of older machines coming offline at that point as well. Because remember, these miners are getting, Marathon's getting 50 exahash. Cleanspark's getting to 50 exahash. You got IREN getting to 40 exahash. Riot has options to get to 100 exahash. Right, so all of these miners here and everybody else around the world that's mining, they're obviously going to be driving their hash rate growth forward as well. That's going to increase the hash rate. I'm guessing this year will be around 800 to 900 exahash in the network hash rate. If it goes, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes even beyond that, depending on what we see around the world, which we can't really track. But with that, and Bitcoin being at only, let's just say Bitcoin gets to 85,000 by the end of the year, things are going to be really dicey and tough for those. So we might see obviously some of the older generations, where at that point we might see like the 80 terahash miners, 90 terahash miners, and the 100 terahash miners possibly going offline, and we'll be probably creeping into the 140 terahash miners as well at that point, because things will just not make sense economically for them at that point. So it would be really tough at that point. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, covered that one. Brad says, I'm driving down from Alberta to South Dakota in July, and if you are anywhere near, I would love to meet you for a beer. Yeah, I was actually in South Dakota 2 years ago. We went to see a bunch of the sites around there. What a great time we had. We took a full week and a half of just driving with the family. Beautiful state. Oh my God. I love that state. Love the mountains and everything else. So yeah, but I'm about 13 hours from there, driving time. Okay, last question, I promise you guys. Do you think Digital has a short-term boost in stock price as they are the only company that stake Ethereum in their holdings? What is your outlook on Ethereum gets approved? I mean, if Ethereum gets approved, we might have one of those things where we saw Bitcoin gets sold off a little bit, sell the news, right? Buy the rumors, sell the news. Events, don't know. I don't really track Ethereum. I do have a little bit of Ethereum in my hardware wallet. I'm just holding on to it. We'll see where it goes. And yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. But they do stake it, obviously. That might be a little bit of an improvement for them. But just the value increase will help as well. But I don't think they're going to get much of a... I don't know how the staking works as far as the percentage that you get, right? I know it's like 4% annual or something like that, interest rate on it or something like that. So with that going up in value, that should help out a little bit as well. But I don't think it's based on that. I think people are maybe realizing that their revenue from the AI side of things is actually pretty good. Their profit margins are pretty good on that as well. Really good, 60-70%. So maybe they're kind of being revalued on that. And with Bitcoin going up, that obviously helps. Them getting to 6 exahash, double from where they are right now, will also help them a little bit. So maybe that's all in play as well. Okay. All right. That is it, my friends. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. Obviously, we're having a pretty good day here with the miners. Let's see where's Bitcoin at right now. What's going on with Bitcoin? See that Bitcoin's down a little bit here. If we look at it really quick, Bitcoin is down to 70,998. Not that much. Obviously, a little pullback is healthy every once in a while, especially when we had a candle like today. I mean, you can see here we had a candle. This was back on Wednesday the 15th. We're down a little bit the next day, up. Then we were down 2 days, and then obviously we had a huge candle here as well today. And then we might be up or down today in the new day today. Then up on Wednesday. Maybe we'll see how that plays out as we continue to go forward. But we got to get past this line here next. That's going to be the breaking point for us, I think, as far as which way we go. Okay, so that is it. Great days like this are always fun. When things are going down, it's never fun, and I can hear it, and I'm sure you guys probably hear my voice, and probably you guys are impacted by it as well. So nice to see a good green day. All right, I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. We'll see what we do then. But otherwise, have a great night, have a great morning, or great afternoon, depending where you're watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.